All right. Welcome to the bloodbath, everybody. Appreciate you tuning back in. This is going to be a gruesome one. I hope you're all hanging in there. If you're not in Tether, and you're not in Bitcoin Diamond, ironically, wherever that is, up 113%, then you are eating it today. Everything else down double digits, pretty much. This is gruesome. And one of the biggest things here is what caused this, right? I was kind of expecting a bit of a correction. Nowhere near the size of this one. And most people are pointing to this bit of news, right? This Goldman Sachs said to have sidelined the plans for crypto trading desk. To me, I don't really necessarily subscribe to the fact that this caused such a massive dip. Everybody was all hyped on the ETF news. Everybody was all hyped like, oh, we're definitely getting an ETF. Like I've never subscribed to that either, to be honest. I actually don't think that the cryptocurrency markets are ready for an ETF, and today sort of proves it. And we'll kind of get into that in a second. But this Goldman Sachs stuff, it seems like they're just sort of playing the safe route, which I also don't think that's the right way to play it if you're a bank, especially with these fiat currencies like we talked about in the last video. If you haven't had a chance to check that out, I would definitely recommend doing so. But I'm more of the opinion that, with the ETF news, when that got sidelined, oh, it'll come out next month. It'll come out next month. No big deal. We'll just kick the can down the road a little bit on these Bitcoin ETFs. You didn't see these massive negative days like we're seeing today. If this isn't the worst day in Bitcoin history, which it's probably not, but it's got to be amongst the top 5, especially if you're factoring in the past 2 days. So in the past 48 hours, I would say this is one of the biggest declines in a long time, at the very least. So this is much different in my opinion. I'm not accrediting it to the Goldman Sachs news by any means. And they even said that they're probably going to continue looking into this in the future. It's not like they're just never going to do this. I definitely think that they'll look into making their own trading desk at some point in time. But my thing is probably has to do something with these wash traders. And if you don't know a lot about wash trading, look into that a little more. I don't have a ton of time to talk about it, but it's more or less, it's illegal depending on the way you do it in the stock market. And it is much less illegal. You can do it in the crypto markets without much repercussion. And that's kind of the scary thing is, and kind of one of the ways that people have been talking about this happening is these order books, especially on BitMEX. If you were watching it a couple hours ago when the market actually started to tank for the second time, which would be, we had this brief pause and then we had another leg down about 10%. And what was happening in that time frame was really, really strange. Was the order books were just flip-flopping back and forth, and the orders were almost identical to each other, and that's cause for concern, right? And you can kind of see it now where it's kind of flip-flopping. Oh, all the longs just disappeared. Are they ghost orders? We're not sure. Like, what's happening here? And so what was interesting is you see these sort of rectangles, right? If you're not familiar with these charts, you see these rectangles, the shorts versus the longs, and all of a sudden you'd see them just pile up on one side, and then instantaneously, within the matter of seconds, they would just explode on the other side. And you'd see millions and millions of orders here, and it would just it gets ridiculous. And you're kind of seeing it right now, where we're in this sort of standstill mode. Like, what are we going to do next? And a lot of people are calling for this sort of manipulation. And to me, it seems that is probably the case. And kind of the bad news of all of this is, if you're the SEC and you're looking at this market and you're looking for this to rule on this Bitcoin ETF, I mean, you're going to tell us to take a hike. Like, those crypto guys, take a hike. You're not even close to ready. Because if a market, especially the market the size of 204 billion, and Bitcoin holds the dominance of almost 55%, like, come on, take a hike. You're not ready for this. So, you know, the ETFs is the big times. I don't think crypto is ready for that. You know, hopefully that'd be pretty cool if we did get an ETF, but I'm just of the opinion that it's just not there yet, especially due to some of this trading, this wash trading that we're seeing. And one of the kind of a big indicator that you're seeing here is if you look back on the 4-hour chart, this is on Bitfinex, you can see that this candle right here, we had a decline from previous close to this candle's close was like roughly negative 0.2%, somewhere in that range. But you saw an astronomical bearish volume on this candle. And so to me, that signifies, all right, what's going on here? Something fishy is happening. You're seeing all of this average volume on the way up. We can go back in time and kind of look at this and get an idea, kind of back test. Okay, what happens when there's this high of bearish volume? Well, you tend to see a pretty nice price action. Like something happens with the price. What happened here? Literally nothing happened. So was this a coordinated event? Maybe. I don't know. I don't have any proof of it, but maybe. We can keep looking back in time and kind of do a little more research. All right, well, what happened here? We had some nice bear volume. We had a little more bear volume there. We had some bear volume here. What was the price difference? What happened to the price action? Well, it moved from, you know, all the way down to the wick, negative 0.55%. Something fishy was going on here, right? And maybe not. Maybe nothing fishy was happening. We don't know for sure. But if you look at what happened today, what happened here? I mean, like, we can go on to the BitMEX trading view chart, if it'll ever load, and we can look into this 1-hour candle, and just the fact that we dropped about 20% in the matter of a day from close to wick was, I mean, it's 16% down to the wick. That kind of price action in one day is either due to extreme news, which I don't personally think that we got extreme news, or it's due to some insane manipulation. Like I don't see how this could not be manipulation. I mean, maybe if somebody else has any ideas, please leave them in the comments. But to me, it just seems unnatural, just based on the extent to which this just broke down. And it could be due to FOMO and like people just needing to get out. And we'll kind of look back into that. But if you look at this candle right here, I mean, that has got to be the one of the biggest candles that we've ever seen, on the 1-hour chart here ever. We can go back in time and you'd be hard pressed to find a bigger volume spike than what we saw earlier today. So with that said, what I do want to do is go back into the chart that we had drawn from previous videos. Is we had this Elliott wave and we were calling this sort of to break down. Like I actually expected it to bounce off the 7,400. And I drew this trend line maybe 2 or 3 videos ago. And I expected it to come up here and test this line and break down. I did not expect us to break all the way down to the 2 wave because that's an unrealistic correction. So I don't think this is a normal correction. But one thing we can do is we can draw this Fibonacci retracement on here and we can get an idea. And granted, this isn't a perfect Elliott wave anymore. So maybe this isn't something, you know, more advanced traders are going to want to like sort of look into. But something interesting to me, if we pull out to say the 1 day, we can get an idea of kind of where we're sitting. Let me move this here. We've definitely dipped below this 0.618 line, and I'm looking for this to hold as support. Like I really am. I'm hoping that at the 64.50 line, somewhere around there, that we can hold as some support. If not, it's looking like we're just going to come down to the 62.30 that we've placed in previous videos before, and that's probably where the next bit of support will sort of lie, and that'll be interesting to kind of see what ends up playing out here, when stuff like this happens, when you have these two massive red candles that you haven't seen in quite some time, consecutive giant red candles, it's very, very difficult to sort of guess where the markets are going. Right now, the bears have control of this situation. So I would be very, very careful of going in strong in either direction, to be honest, because you never know if these guys who are playing with the markets right now are going to go long at any given point. So I would just recommend being very careful here. The next thing I want to talk about is actually PT and PT feeder. So what I've been doing recently with Profit Trailer, I mean, today everybody got wrecked. So there's kind of a new strategy that I've been looking to employ, and that is using Defender and PT feeder in kind of a new fashion. And how do I normally do my day trading? What I do is I look at these indicators and I look at them on different time frames. So I have a 4-hour RSI indicator. I have a regular, this is the 1 hour. And then I have a 30-minute. So I think this is the 1 hour. This is the 30-minute. But what I'm doing is I'm adding in new indicators based on what I want to do with them, right? So this is my common section up here in the PT feeder folder. What is this? The app settings folder. So what I'm doing here is anytime I think I want to use a different indicator, I'm just adding a new indicator into this common section. And the idea here is when you scroll down and you go into your market conditions settings, you have your sideways, you have your bear, you have your Super Bowl, you have your bullish folders. These are all really important. These are great because you can override the indicators if you want to. So that's great because in these situations, the indicators and everything you put into this override section will get overridden. Problem is when you go down to these coin specific groupings, you get into a little bit of trouble because you can't override indicators in these sections. So the only way to do that is to create your own label for each indicator. And so that's what I've been doing. So for example, this 24-hour critical volume or critical downtrend protection grouping. This pair volume is less than or equal to config trigger name 1. So if the pair volume is less than 1,000 BTC and the pair percentage change is less than or equal to negative 5.5, then use these settings. And in this situation, I personally want to use more safe indicators. And so what I'm doing is up top, I added a stochastic 4-hour cross. So that way, anytime remember, this is pair specific. So what feeder is doing in this situation is it's going through every single pair on the exchange and it's giving it individual settings based on your overrides. And so what's happening here is now I am able to, based on a coin specific setting, go in and literally change anything I want. So now whenever this sort of condition right here is true, the pair volume is less than or equal to 1,000 and the coin has dropped negative 5.5% in the past 24 hours, then I want it to use the 4-hour stochastic cross. Same thing for the RSI, same thing for the stochastic RSI. And I'm doing the same thing in my DCAs. So that's something really, really powerful. I'm doing that in all of my different pair specific groupings. There's a ton of them in here. And shout out to Ferry Hendricks. You're crushing it with these app settings files. If you guys are interested at all in snagging some of these files, get an idea of what we're using, head over to our Discord and jump in there, download some of our settings files because we're just constantly playing around with them. But we'll kind of continue forward and give you guys an idea of how my new Defender settings are going to be playing a factor in all of this. So with that said, we'll get right back into Defender here. So what I was saying is I'm running a different strategy with Defender now. And the reason being is, so first and foremost, if you guys don't have Feeder, and you don't have Defender yet, then like you're really limiting yourself in what you can actually do when using like an automated trading bot. So the problem with Profit Trailer is the fact that when like the markets move, you don't get the option to change your settings. So that's what Feeder is for. Now, the problem with like Feeder and Profit Trailer is when you end up in these nasty bags, you don't really have a way out. And so that's what Defender is for. And so if we look at what would happen today in the Bitcoin market, we'll zoom in a little bit. The biggest problem is when you end up in a situation like this where Bitcoin is tanking, you end up, like if you're using Feeder correctly, you're basically telling your bot to not buy anymore in these situations. When X coin, say it's XRP, when XRP goes negative 2% in, the past 60 minutes, you don't want to buy that coin anymore. And that's great. But what if you already hold a bag of that coin? Then what happens? You end up in this super mega black hole of this bag. And, all of us think like, okay, that's great because now we have Defender helping us. And we do, and that's great. But what happens in the middle of that downtrend? Because Defender is really, a fantastic tool when the dip has already happened. So like right now, I'm going to start defending literally all of my coins that I was holding today because I'm holding EOS. If we go back to the coin market cap, I'm holding Bitcoin Cash, EOS, Stellar, like all of these coins are just wrecked. And that's great for Defender purposes right now because what happens is it's going to go in and it's going to trade on whatever time frame I'm trading on. So let's say the 30-minute candles. We're actually still seeing, even in this massive downtrend, we're seeing some green, right? Like we're seeing this 2.6% green candle. We're seeing this green candle right here of 0.88%. Right now my sell value is at roughly 0.4. So I would have even been able to sell in this 30-minute candle right there, let alone it had 3 in a row. So, about a percent gain. It's not a lot. It's a little scary trading in this such a steep downtrend, but that's what Defender is for. What it's going to do is going to break up your bag. It's going to rebuy in when your buying strategies say it's good to do so. And if you're using EMA gain, obviously you're going to be buying. You're negative 9% below the EMA line here. If you're using the 21, which is one of the EMAs I'm using, that's for neither here nor there. But so Defender works fantastic when you're already at the bottom. But when you're in this insane downtrend, how do you protect yourself? How do you get out of those bags and maybe buy back in at the bottom? So what I'm going to start employing in my strategy with Defender is I'm going to use a specific grouping in Feeder. And what it's going to do is when the base coin, or maybe even I'll use a complete coin grouping like this, the pump and dump grouping or like something like this, I'll name it something different. And what I'm going to do is if that coin drops, say 5% in an hour, what I want it to do is implement a stop loss trigger. And what the great thing about Defender is when you start defending, no matter what happens, we're in waiting for buy right now. So what happens when you're in waiting for buy is you have a tiny fraction of these coins sitting in your dust log or in your DCA log, right? Like maybe it's like $10 worth. It just depends on your strategy or your settings. And what we can do with this is we can set up a stop loss trigger and say you're in waiting for buy and Defender hasn't purchased yet. And you get this massive downtrend, this massive candle. What I want it to do is if that coin continues to drop while I'm in waiting for buy, then I would prefer to just liquidate, just get rid of it, sell it. We'll rebuy back in later at a lower cost. And so that's going to be my next strategy. And what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be kind of honing in these settings. They're definitely not ready to be released yet. So if anybody wants to join our Discord and kind of connect with myself, with Ferry, with, Smiley, all the other guys, all the moderators in the Discord, we're all looking to kind of hone in these settings to give us the best possible outcome, in all market conditions. And I think using Defender, we have a really good opportunity here because the only thing we're missing is this drop, this big, massive drops that we've been seeing, time and time again. And it's going to continue to happen. Like these aren't going to go away for a while. Like this manipulation, whatever it is, whatever we spoke about at the beginning of the video, it's not necessarily going away anytime soon. So how can we protect ourselves? And I think one of the best ways, the easiest ways, is to pull up Defender. And the greatest part about this is when you're in waiting for buy, waiting for sell, whatever, whenever you start defending a coin, I have a couple coins here. I have ADA and LTC, super negative. When I start defending this coin, what it's going to do is it's going to place a portion of my coins into a pending order. So you can see here, pending sell amount is 9,326 coins are going to go into a pending order. We can go back and do that again. Let's just click start on LTC. So what's going to happen is going to keep 0.0238 of my LTC coins in my dust log or my DCA log. And then it's going to put in a pending order 0.656. So the nice thing is if you do set up a stop loss trigger, that pending order is already going to be on the exchange because the minute I click defend, this gets put into a pending order. So I click defend here. And what I'm going to do next is I'm going to set up my app settings file to have a stop loss trigger. And what's going to happen is it's going to sell off a small shard of my LTC or my ADA, whatever it is, if it continues to drop. And I guess the only caveat here is your pending order is going to stay on the exchange and not get sold. Now, that's not necessarily a major issue, and it doesn't necessarily protect you from everything going on here. That would be much more manual intervention to kind of do that. But that's kind of my outlook, is especially if say you're in waiting for sell, which I actually don't have any in waiting for sell. Dash was earlier. It finally sold off. I only got 3% back because the market has just been trashed today. But if say one of these was in waiting for sell, which means that Profit Trailer and PTDefender already repurchased my coin, I would have a pretty large, substantial bag sitting in Profit Trailer waiting to sell. And say that all of a sudden when you're in waiting for sell, the market just tanks super hard. Well, my outlook on that is, okay, let's take a loss. Let's get out of it quick. Maybe a -2% stop loss, maybe -3. If you don't have a lot of capital, maybe that's a good idea. And then what you can do after that is you still have that pending order on the exchange, and you can restart defending or you can rebuy back in at a later date. And so that's going to kind of be my strategy. The settings have not been like honed in or anything yet, but just kind of be on the lookout for those because I am actively looking to figure out the best possible way to save ourselves from situations like today. And the settings that I'm using right now with all of these different, pair specific groupings, like there's tons of them. These settings here worked extremely well. The only problem is the bags that you're currently holding end up extremely negative at the end of this cycle. And that's why I went in today and I just started defending all of these coins, because what else am I going to do? Like, now let me let Defender do its job. And I mean, you've seen in my previous videos just cranking through bags. So if you don't already have Defender, now's a great time to get it, because you are definitely in bags if you're using Profit Trailer. And if you don't have Feeder and you got an even worse bags, I definitely recommend getting Feeder. All the links and stuff are in the description. Hop in our Discord to get some more information about, you know, all of these different various add-ons and then market information. I'd love to get your guys' thoughts in the comments below. Leave a thumbs up if you like the comment or if you like the video. And yeah, just come hit us up in the Discord. We'd love to have you around. I'll catch you guys in the next video. Take it easy.